Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today I'm taking a look at a sequel slash standalone expansion to the quest for El Dorado. This is the Golden Temples. In this game, the focus shifts a little bit from the original game, in which the idea was to race to El Dorado. Well, now you are there, and you have to hit up a few different points within the temples in order to retrieve treasure, more or less. That's kind of the idea. So it's still kind of a racing game. It's still a deck building game. In it, you are going to be making your own deck of cards, using it to traverse the landscape and grab what you need and get out, right? You got to do that first. If you're not familiar with the original game, that's okay. I'm kind of going to be explaining this one anyway, but be aware, again, that this is a standalone game, or you can use it in combination with the original one to make a bigger thing, a bigger game. Let's take a look at it. Even though, as I said, the game can be combined with the original game and its expansion, I'm going to be showing it to you here as a standalone game. So this is it in one of its many setups, and the idea here is that we are going to be starting from over here. We are going to be racing to these three temples, collecting gems at each, and then making our way back to the temple exit right here. Whoever does that first, we finish out the round. If only one person did it, they win. If multiple people get back, then there's a tiebreaker for that. Everybody starts with their own deck of cards with starting cards, and on your turn, you are going to be playing those cards, if you want, to move, and then you are going to be buying a card, if you want, with the ones you've got left over in your hand. So you have a hand of 4 cards, okay? So let's say my hand looks like this. I'll cherry pick the ones I want here. So I've got a couple of students, which each give me a torch. And I've got a photographer, I've got a traveler, which give me 2 and 1 coins respectively. So I'm the blue player, I begin here. I can choose where I want to go at the beginning of the game. As long as I hit all 3 and come back, it doesn't matter which order I do it. So I might, for example, play one student, which has a torch, and move into a torch space. I might play the other one, and move into another torch space. And then I might play the photographer, which has 2 coins on it. And I might move into this 2 coin space, or I might use the card to move into a 1 coin space and another 1 coin space. That's allowed as well. What I cannot do is spend multiple cards combined to move into one single space. So for example, if I am here and I wanted to move into this 2 torch space, I cannot use 2 ones to move into there. But a single card that's simply bigger can be split across multiple steps along the path. So let's say I just did the 1 and the 2, like so, and I'm going to hang on to these 2 cards for the purchase. The reason for that is because when it's my time to purchase, I'm allowed to buy one of these 6 cards out here. These come in stacks of 3, and the cost is across the bottom. Now, every card in my hand is half a coin towards whatever I'm buying. Let's say I really want this treasure map down here. So every card is half a coin, but if a card shows coins, it's however many coins it actually shows. So let's say I spent no cards whatsoever to move. I'm just going to buy. Well, it would be 1, 2, 3 with the traveler, half a coin for another 1. So 4 coins total. That lets me buy not just the treasure map, but I could instead buy the archaeologist as well, okay? But I spend my 2 students, I move to that spot, I discard them, and then I'll spend these 3 coins to buy a treasure map. I remove one, I put them all in the discard pile, and I draw myself a new hand of 4 cards. Now, as soon as one of these decks is gone, let's say the next 2 players each happen to buy a treasure map, there's now an empty spot there. And the next person who buys a card can actually buy not just one of these, but any one of these. And there's some off screen back there. So you can buy any one of them. So let's say I want to buy a Jeep for 5 coins. You take the deck, you are going to buy one, put it in your discard pile, and then the rest of the deck comes down and fills that spot. And again, now we can only purchase the ones here. So every time there's an empty space, you may fill that space while purchasing one of those cards. All right? That's how that works. Now, a couple of other things I want to point to here on the board. You've got these barriers here that were in the original game. There's some more. For you to cross these, you have to pay it something extra or possibly give a bonus to your opponents, take a penalty, all sorts of things. And then they will be a tiebreaker at the end of the game. There's all new ones here, which again, if you combine this with the original game, will give you more variety. There's also these guardians. If you end up around one of these at the end of a card, so once one single card has been resolved, you are somewhere around one, you must reveal that and deal with what it does. In this case, this allows everybody else to call one card from their hand. They can thin out their deck. They don't have to, but they may. If you end up around this one, everybody else gets to draw a card. If you end up around that one, everybody else gets a gold coin, and so forth. So they give other players benefits or penalize you somehow. Gold coins are these right here. Some tokens will give them to you, some cards will give them to you, and these can be spent exactly the same way as cards with gold on them. So these two are basically equivalents here. You can choose to spend these to buy cards. You can choose to spend these to move on the board onto the gold coin spots. But you have to be mindful because some tokens, such as this one out here on the board, will get rid of all your coins. And also you can only have up to 3 of them. So you have to be careful with those. And that's basically the flow of the game. Build up your deck of cards, run to these 3, and then make it all the way back over here. There's a couple of other symbols that I'm not going to cover, but that's pretty much that. One thing I want to mention for my final thoughts at the end is that all of these torch symbols that you see on most of the board are new to this game. That is not a symbol featured in the original Quest for El Dorado or the expansion to that game, the original first expansion to it, okay? So that's gonna do it for me. Let's go ahead and go back up top. Let me give you some final thoughts. I like this series quite a bit. The original one is really strong, very entertaining, fast-moving game. The expansion, I know some people don't like Heroes and Hexes, but I like it. I think it's strong, it's interesting, it gives you cool new abilities and sort of, you know, some risk-taking that you can do now. And then this new one is also interesting, though I have a couple of small concerns with it. Some are just sort of, you know, the way the game feels I have an issue with, and some are bloat related. So let's talk about my final thoughts here, okay? I'm going to start with the negative things because they are minor. I overall really like this. And that is the theme, first of all. This theme changes the feel of the game from a racing game to a fetching game. And that means it feels more mundane, maybe. In the original game, I got the feeling that I was sort of barreling towards this golden city, hacking my way through the jungle, finding paths, finding whatever way I could, sometimes putting myself in danger. Now, this idea of sort of backtracking, right? You got to get there and get back, and then, okay, now hit this one and get back, and hit that one and get back and get out, feels more like fetching than racing. And I like that feeling a little less. That's all. It's the same, really. I mean, I know that it's not any different ultimately. It just feels different, you know, to me, mentally. It feels different. And then the other thing is the ease of play. There are some missing rules in the rule book. There's a lack of clarity with some things. You know, there's one tile. There's a few symbols that they don't explain in the English rules. From what I understand, I looked this up online. And in the German rules, this is fine. In the English rules, it's just missing. Like, for example, this tile here, there are 2 symbols there and there that show 2 characters. These are specifically rules for when you're playing 2-player. They're not in the rulebook. They're not mentioned. And a couple of other things like that. Okay, that's problematic. So it gets a little bit of a ding there for me. Everything else I do enjoy. The aesthetics here, fantastic. A+ aesthetics. Okay, the game looks good. card artwork is nice. The iconography is excellent. The whole thing looks fantastic. And it even looks good combined with the original game, which is, again, kind of what you're hoping for if you intend to combine them. The replay value, fantastic. Lots of combinations, lots of different ways you can set this up. And, again, if you combine it with the original game, there's a lot of combinations there, too. The game arc gives you plenty to the way, because of that sort of fetch questy nature of it. There are different ups and downs. There's different bottlenecks. There are sort of different ways you can tackle getting some place and getting back from that place. I will say because of the game arc, because of the way the game combines with the original game and the expansion, if you want, Heroes and Hexes, I think the game outstays its welcome if you're not careful with how you combine this with the original game. So ultimately, that's why I'm doing this review more as a standalone game than as an expansion to the original one, because I think it is a better standalone game than an expansion to the original one. It's just too big. It's bloated. It's no longer a quick family weight game when you throw all this stuff together, okay? Lastly, the tactics, the strategy, the luck. It's fun. The fun pathfinding and combinations is what this game is all about, okay? And that's still there. This game is still bringing that to the forefront. So, ultimately, the original game I really like. I rate that a 9 out of 10. But it was first, and it feels more fun. This is very much the same concept. Still fun, still interesting. I don't like the vibe as much, the theme as much. But it's second, right? It's like been seen already, been there, done that. But still, it's so good. I just love the plays of this that I've had. So this comes in just half a point under the original one for me. This is going to get an 8.5 out of 10, which means it's still going to get a seal of excellence. I definitely recommend it. Again, be careful how you combine this with the original game, but give it a try. And definitely, if you enjoy deck building, if you enjoy racing games, you want a family weight game that combines those two things, this is a winner, as is the original one. So there you go, 8.5 out of 10. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.